Ideas Original.
We want to welcome Knowledge Born to the No Ideas Original podcast. Knowledge, you sort of like the fourth member of the No Ideas Original podcast. We done had you up here a couple of times. We done been on your platform a couple of times. It's always a treat when you come through and we can have these conversations. I feel like whatever we talk about, whether it's about hip hop, whether we talking about current events, whether we talking about the state of Black America or America in general, it's always a enlightening discussion. So I appreciate you pulling up and joining us, brother.
I'm glad to be here, a part of history. Very rarely, go ahead,
say what you were say.
Very rarely do you get opportunities to dialogue with your alike. It used to be plentiful when we were young. People, we see things sort of similar. We have same kind of ways of seeing things, and now you be stressed to find somebody that's like, man, it's like, all right, we coming in contact with people who are unalike versus alike. So
that's a fact.
No Ideas Original has always been alike in word and in deed, man. So it's honored to be here.
That's a fact. You know why? It's funny you say that because I feel like it's kind of become popular to be a contrarian. So that's why you get a look being a contrarian, right? But let's get right into it. The ebook series, Voices of Diaspora. You know, what inspired it? Like, what made you decide to, to create this ebook series? And I had opportunity. I looked through the 4 volumes that you sent over, and I'm like, damn, like this brother really did some deep diving or whatever. Like, yo, some real good information in there.
And not that I'm surprised, but when you went from knowledge to born back to knowledge, you absolutely did that, brother.
Facts.
You put a lot of work into it. Okay.
Well, I'm working on 5 books, right? 5 books, 5 documentaries. So the 5 books, 5 documentaries, you've been telling folks for a couple of years now, oh, the books is coming, the documentaries is coming, and you could find yourself at an impasse in regards to writing, writing extensively. There's a bunch of things that you have to ingest in order for you to give the output. There's a bunch of things you got to research, interviews you got to line up, perspectives you got to hear from, all of that to compile together. So young and old, you see what I'm saying? And literally put out your research. So writing in that sense is not writing in a pleasurable sense, other than I'm writing with this intent in mind. So you're really reporting the evidence, and you're striving your best not to have a bias to lean to one way or another. So research questions kind of fuel those things. So those 5 books. But these 5 books was just a proof of concept. I needed to prove to myself that I could actually write something and get it out there. You see what I'm saying? So the first one was dedicated to Black entrepreneurs. You see what I'm saying? So dedicated to Black entrepreneurship. If you're not in control of what you're producing, somebody else is. It's just simple. Right. You see what I'm saying? Like, if you're not in control of the production, you could take your IP, your intellectual property from your mind, and then when you want to produce it, if you got to go through all of these holes in order to do it, you're not really in control of it. You see what I'm saying? Like, you got it and somebody pimping you for it now. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So it go from your mind to somebody else's wallet and everybody getting paid along the way. But if you have that skill set and that base, that's something to dedicate. You know what I'm saying? So that first volume is dedicated to that. So it's like, all right, let's see those who made it. We do a job with showing negative models. We don't do a very good job with success models. Like, yo, you did that. Somebody did that. You need to be looking at that. You need to be looking at what they did. We get caught up on like who they are. Like, oh, yo, his mama probably smoked crack. All of those extra stuff. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Instead of taking away from the success model. So the success model was something to spark their brains, because young people, they're getting paid with this. My cell phone. They're getting paid from their cell phone. So how do you engage a mind that's oriented like that? We did the hard work because we came from factory family, plant family, whatever the case may be in regards to hard work. Work for the city, work for the state, whatever it is. Right. That was it. Like, so once you got in somewhere and you were there. The current world of work looks at that, and they use a term called homesteading. So that means you was at a job. They calling you a bum for longevity because you was loyal, because you was committed. They're looking at you in the world of work like you a bum, like you ain't switching up jobs every 1 to 3 years now.
Right.
So the attention span in regards to social media is a world of work thing in America. So this is the only place where you see an article, they say 3-minute read, 4-minute read. They're like, you got to decide if you want to invest 3 or 4 minutes to read this article or not. You see what I'm saying? So in that in that world space, this is how the dynamic of the marketplace is changing. So these are the adaptations in the marketplace. So when we look at entrepreneurialism, you have to be able to have that turnover rate. So we're looking at success models in regards to those who are able to adapt to all of these changes and continue to go young and old. You know what I mean? So that's volume 1. And I was kind of trying to figure out everything in regards to formatting and all of that. And my brother D Banks, he did an amazing job with the illustration. So the imagery you see and all of those things and the layout, he's amazing. He's an amazing designer. You see what I'm saying? So I'm just there writing, and he takes it from Pinocchio to a real boy. You see what I'm saying? So,
you know something that just listening to you talk, and the passion you have with it, and you talking about like the whole thing around proof of concept. Because we talk a lot about proof of concept around here, and I appreciate what you're saying around the part where like to me it's a success in itself to be able to take an idea, something that you've conceptualized and actualize it. And I think that gets lost in people as being successful. I think sometimes people start overlooking the fact that they actually brought something to fruition, and they start thinking about what is the success or whatever it is. But the fact that you were able to actually demonstrate to yourself and others that this is something that you could produce, this is definitely the foundation and the starting point for something, much, much bigger. Like, I looked, like I said, I looked at it, and the first thing that came across my mind, I'm like, yo, damn, like my dude Nas and created like a Black encyclopedia, like the Black Aesop fable. Like I remember, when I was younger, I don't know if Kim remembers this, but we were little kids, and my mom used to read us Aesop fables for for bedtime stories. I could see somebody opening up their phone, putting their kids down to go to sleep, and going through this with them and sharing these stories, of our history. Like this is a powerful piece of literature you have on your hands here, man.
Yes, sir. I agree with that. Sure.
And that was the spark. I was a kid who got in trouble all the time. You see what I'm saying? Just to be plain. So my mother figured out if I had books, the world was safe. If I didn't have no books, the world was on fire. You understand what I'm saying? So the world was suspect. All right, the world went from a book to a possible. You see what I'm saying? It went from a book to a possible. So yeah, and that was the goal. I wanted to engage the mind, but also if you've seen the music that's there, I wanted to engage the mind and the heart. You see what I'm saying? At the same time, because retainability, you're learning a lesson and you're learning a lesson at the same time. So the hip hop that's there, that's accompanying you through this journey, it's a short journey, because you say ebook, you say books. My name is Knowledge Born, so they're like, "Oh Lord, we about to get a whole I Have a Dream speech 4,000." I'm like, nah, I can't do that out the gate. I can't do that out the gate. I have to build up. So it's like, all right, we have a few pages. It's like 19, 20 pages. Even my son's just like, Daddy, is it long? Like they had to do me like, yo, Daddy, is it long? I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
It's like 19, 20 pages. I think the longest book is volume 5, and I'll send you volume 5, shop out. But it's 50 pages. But these other books, 4 volumes, is less than 80 pages. It's 4 volumes. It's less than 80 pages. So you got sources, you have all these things. But I really wanted that. Could we show one just to give an example?
Yeah, sure.
We show one of them just so they could see the kind of layout, because.
And that's what I was going to ask, Knowledge, is the layout, because whoever come up with the design and the user friendliness of it, if you are using a digital device, your phone or your tablet, doesn't make it as cumbersome. It's more enlightened.
You took into consideration the average adult attention span.
Right.
Because listen, and like, I've always thought about the idea of writing a book, and then I seen your books. I'm like, damn, this is probably the way to go, because nobody wants to sit there and spend that much time trying to consume that. I mean, it translates over in the music. If you look at the average album, is probably 30 minutes or less with 10 songs. So whatever you got to give, whatever you want to give to people, you got to give it to them quick, and you got to get right to it.
Right.
So when I looked at it, I'm like, this is good. And again, it is just, the design is tremendous. It was
it's very picturesque. It's inviting. It's showing, or it's luring people with eye contact. Like, oh, well, what's that about? And as you read, and the information that's detailed in there, as you read, it makes you want to turn the page to find out more what is in this book. Yeah. I like the fact that you use, I know you use references, but one of the great books that I like was The Black Fortune that you got in there as a reference.
Right.
It's a great book for any child looking to continue a dream, or to continue pursuing what it is that they want to pursue, even in the midst of adversity. I think that book details it a lot about that. And I was like, wow, now I was going to pull that book out too as a reference. And then all the little the quotes from Malcolm and others. It's a nice plate of food for someone, and it's not a whole lot. And I'm glad, like Yada said, you know, the wherewithal, the time span of people talking or listening and paying attention.
Yeah, I think it's set up in a way that it lends to want more. Right. I think if you make it long, you get to a point where people were saying people want less. But this, you know, you go through, you're reading, like, all right, you know what? Let me see what else he got, because it's something that you getting information and you giving them part, and it makes people inquisitive to see what's next or what you got going forward, as opposed to being like, this is 250 pages or something. That's gonna be a weekly read or something, and I don't think a lot of people at this point are getting through a lot of those things unless you're really an book enthusiast at this point.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So the themes for the 4 books, the 4 volumes that I've seen so far, is stories of Black entrepreneurs building a better future, 100 inspiring Black women who changed the world, Black revolutionary leaders from Africa to America, and warrior freedom Black liberators around the globe. How did you select those themes?
Well, if we hear a term like nation building, right? We hear a term like nation building. Nation building starts as an idea. It's a determined idea. First, you have to see yourself in a space of success. How our counterparts have been successful is through their own indoctrination. You see what I'm saying? They show their success models. They show them in movie, film. The history books are written about them. Anywhere they go, they're going to see themselves. You look at an advertisement, whatever the case may be, you can envision yourself. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. If y'all remember that movie Pursuit of Happiness,
yeah.
Well, Will Smith's character is playing Chris Gardner Sr., right? Mm-hmm. So he wants to work at this stock, broker. He wants to be a broker on Wall Street. So he's initially attracted to how the guy is dressed and what he's driving. So that was his buy-in, right? So it's like, okay, I can do that. He already put himself in a place to say I could already do that. When he went home and told his wife, who had to go back to her next shift, and they was behind in the bills and they needed an extension on the taxes, she didn't want to hear no dream. She wanted to hear
where the bread coming.
How much does it pay? You see what I'm saying? I'm gonna have to stop these 2 jobs. So she was in her space, so she couldn't dream with him. You see what I'm saying? She couldn't dream with him. So she became adversarial, but any adversity that he faced was something that he used to propel himself forward, not regress or do anything worse. So his why was there. His why was there, and it was very clear. And no matter what they said, from the time he was in the cab with the Rubik's Cube, he didn't even know what a Rubik's Cube was, and he figured that shit out in the mix of the time that they were going in the taxi cab. That's why the guy spoke for him. He spoke for him, not because of what he might have looked like on paper and his willingness to come and meet him. He meet him and did that taxi ride. He hopped out the cab, you see what I'm saying? But he did that taxi ride type of situation, and he propelled himself. He stretched himself. He went outside of the limit. So these stories, if you're thinking about being audacious, you have to show the imagery of those who were audacious. You see what I'm saying? They didn't have small minds in regards to moving forward. So it was a way to kind of highlight the natural genius that exists within Black people and give the creative license for them to bring it out. So Yada, if you're going to write that book, brother, write that book. If you got to write the book in series, write the book in series. You see what I'm saying? Write a whole series about your determined idea. Whatever you want to do to share your story, get that story out there. Somebody's in need of what it is. If you got a burning desire and a passion to do it, it's in you. You just find a way to give that delivery, get that thing out there so the world can be like, yo, damn, I ain't even know.
Right.
So back to proof of concept again. So you look at entrepreneurship. This is your determined idea. Next, the Black woman, okay? The Black woman. I'm dedicating a volume to the upliftment of Black women. And on the end, we got this video. That's my call to action shout out from one of the greatest duos of all time, one half of the greatest duos of all time, General Steele, Smith and West. When people love you, they show up for you. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know that.
Yeah.
When people love you, they show up with you. And I wanted them to see that call to action in regards to what I deem as successful. That's my brother. That's my PNC. Him and his brother, successful relationship in the dirtiest game in the universe. They ain't break apart. They ain't start beefing with each other for likes and views and all of those crazy stuff. They from neighborhoods that would have been at war, and they were kind of critical mass in regards to kind of stopping that out of respect of those two.
Yeah.
You see that? So if they could come together and make this happen, The Shining is 30 years old next year. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So they on tour promoting that. That's 30 years. If that's not a success, I don't know what to call it. They lost their name. They lost everything. They didn't lose sight of each other. You see what I'm saying? So if you're looking at success models, we can point big and small. So it was an opportunity for that. But Volume 2 is revolving around the Black woman, you know, my mother, my sister, you know, my queen, you know, the daughter, the niece, you see what I'm saying, the cousin.
Yeah.
In a time frame where they're showing Black women over-sexualized, young and old. You see what I'm saying? Thinking they have to display themselves in this kind of way. You know, Lauryn Hill said, don't be a hard rock when you really are a gem. You see what I'm saying? And then you started seeing, you know, Black women kind of change themselves. Now, the reversion becomes, it's true. It's going back to these annals. 51 years of hip-hop, no Black woman really mentioned in the mix. You see what I'm saying? 51 years of hip-hop and not really brought to the forefront. So in all of these industries and just in our life, we come from Black women. If it wasn't for no Black women, we wouldn't be here. You see what I'm saying? Like, what's we doing, fam? Like, what we doing out here? You see what I'm saying? So that honor, that's sacred. You go from the determined idea to how the determined idea is actualized, from knowledge to wisdom. So this wisdom volume is no coincidence. You see what I'm saying? Yes, that when you're looking to give birth, who could carry that in that gestation? That's her power. So to honor her in her space and to give her a reminder, just to be a reminder, short volume, give her a reminder. And the music that's associated with that one is Killer Priest album dedicated to mother, dedicated to his mother. He lost his mother. I lost my mother. I know that feeling. You see what I'm saying? So for the ones that you carry in your heart forever, who gave you your design? You see what I'm saying? It's the womb you came from. So in honor of that womb, she's the mothership that's guiding us through the volume while you get a chance to have some understanding. So 100 Black women to profile, to examine, to give honor to Black women. So that's volume 2 right there. You see what I'm saying? So you see the styles. One thing I wanted to say really quick about volume 1, it shows cross generations.
Yeah.
You know, my illustrator, my brother D Banksy, did a great job with painting the picture of cross generations, so young and old. So it didn't matter what age. You see what I'm saying? If you have a dream, you have something you want to do, it doesn't matter what age you're doing it. You see what I'm saying? I was in college and there was a lady who was 90 years old and she graduated with a bachelor's at 90. You see what I'm saying? So when they say it's never too late, that's a real thing. So when you start looking at imagery and how you want to see yourself and who you see yourself as, all these things, these are all people from different time periods throughout history, Black women throughout time periods of history that made an impact. Whether it's a small impact or a large impact, an impact is an impact. So seeing yourself. So imagine young Black girls looking at themselves, seeing themselves and being sparked instead of seeing themselves being capitalized off of, being manipulated, and them showing themselves in the imagery that's not really befitting to them, but it's getting attention.
Right.
So they're intentional with that intention. So I'm intentional with this intention in regards to showing there's so many different layers to you. There's so many things that you can do. It's not a one-trick pony type situation.
Yeah.
And I
Rob.
I was gonna say I see that in the chapters you got from trailblazing all the way to your modern day heroes. Because we need a plethora of good concepts and good ideas and good imagery versus what we see today. We don't have those concepts, pardon me, for women to attach themselves. And you can see the trendiness of eyelashes and baby hairs and BBLs and the language that they speak. No one's talking about, who was the most important Black woman who was a scientist, a woman in general who was a scientist. Why isn't that a topic of conversation? We can talk about sports all day, but do we really know who came before Serena Williams and the things that they went through at a time where you probably couldn't even play ball in certain areas? My question, Lauren, is how long did it take for you to compile this information, bro? Like, when did you start that spark moment when you said, let me sit down and put this together? Because what you have, I'm still blown away. And I didn't even scratch the surface. I didn't even get into the other volumes. But I'm like, Jesus Christ, man. God really put his effort into it. And I'm loving it because I'm a reader. So I'm going to definitely dive into it. So how long did it take you from knowledge to born to get what you got in front of us?
I mean, this is a result of all my life. You know what I'm saying? Y'all was talking about the encyclopedias. I had the encyclopedias. Right. Literally my entire family. I'm in Jersey right now with my family, with my siblings. You see what I'm saying? I read their books. I read my brother's books. I read my sister's books, her college books. I read the encyclopedias. I did the research, like they said in the autobiography of Malcolm X, and it showed in the X movie. I copied the dictionary. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't have to watch the movie to do it. So it's like, it was one of those things where you wanted to be able to articulate yourself in that kind of way. So I've been after Black people since I was born. You see what I'm saying? It wasn't something I just stumbled into. It was like, I read a book and it changed my life. Like, I came here on assignment. And I was fortunate enough to be born of a mother and a father who knew that before my conception and paved the way. So my mother came to me with the books and the spark and everything. I was just talking to somebody and it was like, oh, take your children with you. I was in college with my mother. Wow, as a younger, we was there, quiet, learning, taking notes in the class.
Right.
So we saw education as something serious. And then when I got into the public school system, that kind of intelligence from a young Black man wasn't celebrated. It wasn't celebrated. It was met with opposition. So storing things up and then creating opportunities for Black people to be seen and heard. That's the whole thing with Do Knowledge Radio. That was the whole epicenter. So this is a thought that's been in the making since the beginning. But the opportunity to answer your question very, succinctly, how long did it take me to write these 4 volumes? It took me 2 weeks.
Wow.
Just 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks, like I've been on fire. I wrote volume 5.
But you sat down and said, now, you know what? That's it. Lock in. I know exactly my direction. I know exactly who I need as far as participants and support. Like you said, your brother did magnificent work with the digital. I'm like, yo, Dan, should we enlist in some of his services because we may need to do something like that. But no ideas original at some capacity.
I was thinking the same.
At some capacity, like we may want if we want to need to tell a story. I mean, you know.
I mean, y'all need the series, man. Y'all need the series. Y'all need the documentaries. Y'all have everything documented, but the documentary is you. Like it's you. It's your own space to where y'all are talking about what you created. You see what I'm saying? Like it's literally like talking about your children. You start talking about your children, we're gonna be here for 5 hours. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. One of your children, one of your grandchildren, whatever space you in, you're gonna be there talking about. This is something that came out of the womb of your mind. So this is why this wisdom degree is important, because it's not only in honor to the womb and the mind of the Black woman, is what comes out of her, is what comes out of her mind, what she's able to, take in and multiply. So you give a woman something, she's going to multiply it. So he's here, he made this album in ode to his mother. Killer Priest's birthday is tomorrow, as a matter of fact. You see what I'm saying? Oh. I know we here today on Nipsey Hussle Day. Tomorrow's his birthday. You see what I'm saying? So that kind of mind. You look at Nipsey Hussle's mother, that's another, beacon of hope and light. So volume 1, I was trying to get my feet wet, trying to figure out the format situation and all that. You see what I'm saying? Y'all seen all the bullet points all over the pages and stuff, and I was like, let me get that out of here. Let me get that out of there. You see what I'm saying? And I wanted to have the format thing kind of working, because scrolling is somebody who love you, they're gonna scroll for a second. They're not gonna scroll for a lifetime to try to read no book. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Like I know they got the Kindles and all that, but when you open this, it's like you opening the book. Your mind is already open. It's like, all right, it ain't 1,000 words on the joint already. Like it's formatted. I see some imagery. You see what I'm saying? Like there's a song at the beginning. Did it start? Or you got
yeah, no, I have. I muted it because you was talking. Okay. I wanted to ask you though, Knowledge. Like, given that we in this digital era, this digital age, do you feel like there's been an uptick in negative imagery and negative representation of Black people? Just because now digitally we have it in front of us much more often, because I'm in agreement with you. Like the positive representation, and that's what I see in these books. Like actual positive representation, rather than when you get on IG, and on IG is pretty much the opposite of that. For every 15 negative posts you see, or depiction of Black people, you may see one positive one. So do you think that the fact that we're in the digital era and the digital age, that there's been an uptick in negative imagery as it relates to Black people pushed across the screen to us?
That's one of the greatest questions I've ever been asked in life. Okay. I just want you to know, for the record, like literally, that's one of the greatest questions I've been asked in the interview space in my entire life. And the answer is absolutely yes. You say the digital age. Mm-hmm. My next book is me addressing some of the spaces. Volume 6 is media misrepresentation. So you said that, right? In my research, I found, did y'all see that? Y'all ever heard of that movie Birth of a Nation?
Yeah.
The original one, the D.W. Griffin. That was 1915. That was one of the greatest pieces of improper propaganda in the cinematic space that heralded Black people as enemies, and Black men in particular as enemies, and the Klan as superheroes.
As the savior.
Yeah, I got exactly.
So if you looked at the cowboy movies, the villain had on black.
Yeah, it's a fact.
So subliminally supplanting in your mind, if you have Black, y'all been to the range, y'all got weapon systems. What color are the targets?
Mm-hmm.
Black.
Yeah, Black. So in your mind, you're attuned to see Black as a threat. Yeah. You're attuned to see Black as a threat. So you got your weapon system. You see Black, you're shooting at it. You understand?
Yes,
So
sir.
now think about the governmental agencies, the law enforcement folks. When they see Idi Amin, they see threat. When they see Patrice Lumumba, they see threat. You see what I'm saying? When they see Kwame Nkrumah, they see threat. When they see us, they see threat. They've been trained that way. That's how you train a child up in the way that they should go. So the digital era, the cinematic era, I read somewhere every story is a love story. So those folks who were in that movie theater when they saw D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation, they fell in love with the Klan. You see what I'm saying? They fell in love with the Klan, and they had a hate relationship with those black people. They weren't even black people. They had white
Black
people
folk.
put blackface on to do it.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So
Because they
now
hate black people too much to give them the acting gig.
Yeah.
well, you have to make an enemy. If you want war, if you warlike, you have to have
You're the common enemy.
Yeah, one of those things from that Shaka Zulu miniseries that we watched when we were young. They asked the guy. They said, "What are you gonna do if there's no more war?" He said, "I'll just create it."
Great one.
You see what I'm saying? Like that's it. Like that because he understood that he has 80,000 warrior man regiment. They got to be employed. They can't be at home. They on some other stuff. He made a war machine, and the war machine has to go out and do what they do. They can't go work in the fields and all that. You see what I'm saying? They out there for the action. So if you don't have something for that 80,000 man army to do, they're gonna start to unravel on themselves, and that's what we saw. So the imagery, the media attack. There's a protected class of people that you can't say nothing about.
Yes,
You
sir.
can't write nothing about them. You can't say nothing about them. And those are the protected class of people that's responsible for the imagery that's shown all over the world of us. So when you see us, we criminals, we thugs, slave movies, all those things are done by design by the same group of people that you can't say anything about. So if you wanted to see Thomas Sankara, you know what I'm saying, or Julius Njima, they're going to show them as primitive. They're going to show them as tyrannical. They're going to show them as something other than what they are. Because
Controlling the narrative.
right. So when you look at your imagery, you look at your story, the question that you asked, I was so deep and so nuanced because we haven't told our own story. We've never told it. Everything that we've been told, especially in the digital space, in the cinematic space, has been written by everybody other than us. So even when we do it, we do what we saw somebody else do. You see what I'm saying?
So let me ask you this, because this is that, and I want to make sure I read this so I get this correct. Because in thinking about like this line of questioning, the next thing I was going to say to you is, all right, so there's some states that you see that are banning critical race theory being taught in schools. Why do you think there's such a high reluctance to not only the dissemination of Black stories, but also the acceptance of Black people to actually internalize our stories, right? So there's this piece of people like, nah, we don't want that information out there, but there's also an internal component from us that reject these stories as being true stories about who we are.
I mean, 2 for 2 right here. 2 for 2 with the alley-oops today. You understand what I'm saying? You got one of the greatest album covers in the world on your wall right there. Next to another one of the greatest album covers on the wall right there. You see what I'm saying? You got a Tribe Called Quest, and you got Nas, you got Illmatic. You see what I'm saying? So look at his view. This is the man-child going out into the world with his project in the background. This is where I come from. This is my foundation. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. I will not be denied. You see what I'm saying? So this is the man-child, and his name is Nasir. Nasir means the men. Al-Nas means the men. You see what I'm saying? So this childlike wonder, this childlike reflection, but this childlike visionary, where nothing or no one is going to be able to stop him. It's a fearlessness that's there that's associated with it. You see what I'm saying? We're talking about the revolutionary volume. This is the understanding. This is volume 3. This is what comes out of the womb of this black woman. This is why she has to be shown crazy, because her children are children of the revolution, are children of the change agent. You see what I'm saying? So I dedicated the next 2 volumes to transformation, volume 3 and volume 4. This man right here, rest in peace, Prince Asiel Ben Israel, him and y'all, what's my brother's name? His Excellency Ben Ami. They were in Chicago. There was black people who wanted to leave Chicago almost 60 years ago now. They left Chicago and went to Liberia, and then they went from Liberia to Dimona, Israel. And they've been there in Israel for almost the last 60 years. At his funeral, I was there at his funeral with his family, with his sons, with his wife, everybody. He had a burning desire for the Kwanzaa term in Guzu Saba is Kujichagulia, that space of self-determination, to name yourself. He wanted black children to grow up in an environment where they were healthy, where there was no toxicity, where there was no violence, and the names that they had been given at birth were honorable names, where there was no influence, where they could watch America on TV. You understand what I'm saying? Like, they could watch America on TV. There'd be a afterthought, not something that they had to exist in. So this was his plan. This was his goal. And they got together, and there was 50 of them that went, and then hundreds of them went after. You see what I'm saying? He faced court, he faced jail time, all kinds of things, because he had a determined idea that was put on his heart, that God put into his heart, to want to see his people in a space where they'd be able to self-determine. Don't that sound like the man that's next to him? Don't that sound like Malcolm X? Don't that sound like some of these leaders that we're looking at in profiling? They had that determined idea in their mind to want to see our people in a better position. You see what I'm saying? And not just in theory. They went and put roots. They went and put organization. They went and faced whatever it was. So in that space of practicality. So that understanding, that's the best part. So again, these children of the revolution. So these spaces where they push and promote these other things, you start to think in your mind like we don't have a reason to be proud of who we are. Because when we see who we are, as portrayed by these images that are out there and these narratives that are out there, you like, man, black man, forget it. Forget it. You see what I'm saying? So forget it. That, so this is a proper propaganda campaign in the space of reformation to let you know, okay, from then till now, there were people that were actively working, and there are people actively working. So using your gifts, your talents, and your skills. You see what I'm saying? The Honorable Marcus Bazai Garvey, his birthday is on the 17th of this month. You see what I'm saying? So a couple of days from now, right? So Queen Nani from the Maroons. So when you start hearing, the brothers and sisters in the Caribbean, she was a leader. She was their leader. You see what I'm saying? She took the reason why you heard of a thing called a ghillie suit is because of her. So you see the ghillie suit and the camouflage and moving through, undetected, blending in and all of that. It's because of her. That was her tactics that she trained the Maroon Army up for them to be able to move in that way. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So they was up in the mountains, all of that. So it was a space of resistance to the assault, to the tyranny, to the oppression. So the things that are out here where we're being typecast and getting put in these places and these roles and buffoons, and you got to have men with dress on and all this effeminate craziness that's out here that's going on. Some folks are signing up for it because that's how bad they want to see themselves. So there's a desire to want to see yourself, but this is how you're seen. So somebody's controlling how you're being seen, and it's seeding into your consciousness. So images, symbolism, one of the definitions for symbolism that I gravitate towards are sensible images used to express a hidden meaning. So if I show you the Boondocks and the Boondocks breaking down how all this stuff works, and then they call it the N-word moment. You understand what I'm saying? You there in your mind. This is what's traveling into your consciousness. This is what's traveling into your consciousness, and this is what you're going to give birth to. So that spirit of resistance, that spirit of reclamation, of self-determination was something that I wanted to highlight. The minds and the motives behind those who were audacious enough or brave enough to be able to do these things. So.
Think if I mean this is think of it this way, is that we put more glorification in fictitious characters than real life people when it comes to our stories. Like probably the biggest celebration we've had of Black people in terms of filmmaking or representation is probably Black Panther. People were like touting Black Panther, Black Panther, Black Panther. You're like, you do realize that there's no real place in Wakanda, and that it's a fictitious character. But then when these real stories are put put on display, like either people don't embrace them, they don't have nearly as much support. There's no interest. And like I said, like if people really had genuine interest in these stories, then removing critical race theory from schools will be much more challenging. But there are people we've had come on this platform, and people of color, and their position around race sometimes, I'm like, wow, you really believe these things? But I realized, like, that this is information that they've had in front of them, or they've internalized misinformation, and now the internalization of misinformation they believe to be truth because it's been put in front of them for so long. So, to bring it back to the book, like if you could get this book in the hands of people and give them the real information, then they can take that information and use that to help, generations going forward. Each generation could pass it on to the next generation, and that generation could pass it on to the next generation, and that can help us to really put our true narrative on display for the world, rather than us being glorified and by way of a Black Panther. Black Panther is a great film. It was a great film, but the reality of it is like it's not a real story. We have real heroes and real stories that can be told that people could actually appreciate.
So knowledge,
and it's not told from our lens. Pardon me. I just wanted to say this before I forget. It's not told from our lens. It's told from the lens of somebody named Stan Lee. So this is Stan Lee's inference. That's he come from that same group that you can't talk about. You understand?
Yep.
So this is his mind in regards to how you're seen. So if he controls how these images are seen or internalized, that's one thing. And the other aspect is they funded the school systems. That same protected class, they funded the school system. So critical race theory is something that's up there because they say so. So if they give you something, they can take it back. If we don't create spaces within our homes, one of the plus ups from the Black Panther film, I wasn't a fan of the film at all, neither one of them. But one of the plus ups was to use the opportunity to be able to sit with our children in groups and hear their thoughts and have constructive discussions about it, breakdowns. What did you see? You see what I'm saying? What's that? Like, all right. So they said that Wakanda was Haiti. They said Wakanda was Haiti. It was the first freedom zone for Black people. If all you needed to do was make it there, whatever your status was prior to that, if you made it to Haiti, you was free. That's the only place on the planet where slavery was outlawed. If you made it to Haiti, you were free. So think about that. You see what I'm saying? So when we look at critical race theory and we see the intent, the goal to seek to raise awareness, they ain't seen you since the 1500s. They're not going to see you now. You see what I'm saying? So you have to be able to sit down with your children and children in your span of influence and share these things with them in a way that's more palatable to them, for them to be able to receive it. Because if they're learning it from that protected class that you ain't talking about, they're not going to get it well. You understand what I'm saying?
Like, they're going to get a whitewash version.
Yeah, the victim is victimized by the victor with the pen. You see what I'm saying? So to the victor belong the spoils. So that last video that you had on that in the last volume on the page, that was in Uganda. That was my brother Bomani from United Front. He was in Uganda and he went to the mountains of the moon. So he's there and he uses an excerpt from Idi Amin. That's why I tied it into the book. You see what I'm saying? Because Idi Amin was one who was audacious enough to remove the Asians and the Indians that were bankrupting by the permission of that protected class that you can't talk about over there, taking the livelihood, the lifeblood, and imagine being in your own country and you don't control anything in your country. The wealth, its destination, or any of that, all of it's being controlled by a hidden hand outside of you. He wasn't having that. He exiled them. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So my bad, y'all. Just wanted to share that.
That's fine. Listen, I mean, a lot of stuff we talked about, even the last couple of minutes, kind of adds to the thought I was thinking about here. So we talked about how, like, you know, we sit with the youth, we talk with them now, how we were willing to accept certain things that we consider norms, and we're willing to go with them, right? But one of the things I always think about with this, and I think it's like something where it's a level of responsibility. We had a generation where people were leaders, to us, and they came and they spoke, and they were powerful, and then we had a gap, a huge gap, where it's almost like everything just dropped off, and now you see a resurgence of something. Do you think that as part of that gap there was a level of responsibility to all the generations of people in between that gap? And some of the stuff, do you think that the emergence of social media, which again is a vehicle to provide information, has actually dissipated or decentralized a lot of the messages? Because we don't have a lot of people that are stepping forward to be leaders. We have a lot of people with opinions. And those opinions are not necessarily all based on one like minute or one like situation. It's more so what I feel like in my situation, when we may need to focus on a much larger scale thing on. Although movements and things happen in smaller pieces, the message is still the same. But because we have the ability to speak, is it that the message is diluted because everybody has their own different thing?
Powerful question, and an even more powerful analysis. Why you hear is important. Why you hear is very important. So we look at one generation to the next. What motivates them? There's an absence. There's an absence of what we see. So if we're online talking about their music, talking about their clothes, talking about all of that, like if we're there berating our children and our grandchildren, what kind of respect and love are they going to have for us when it's time to tell them something real?
Bingo.
This is their music. This is their style. This is their way of communication. We're supposed to use these instances to bridge the gap because we had our own music, we had our own style, we had our own way of communication. Our parents hated our music, okay? Their parents hated their music. They were young. They remember when they were young. They forgot it when they got old. We were young. Couldn't nobody tell us nothing when we was young. Is that a new thing? No, it's not a new thing. It's an age thing. You understand what I'm saying? So finding a way to speak the language of the next generation and building the bridge instead of burning the bridge is very critical. And this is how leadership was sparked. Lil Bobby Hutton of the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense was 15 years old when he came into the ranks of the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. So revolution is in the hands of the young. The Bible says young men for war, old men for counsel. So if the counsel that's coming from the old man is you little young bucks don't know nothing about nothing, how long is that going to last? That's not going to last. So whatever industry we saw, if you want a continuation, there has to be a space where you're providing them with the tools necessary and the guidance necessary for them to be able to do it and then support their vision. So if this is their vision, they got these 3 things, you add 7 more things to their vision. You help them refine it. You see what I'm saying? You ain't telling them you can't do this or this or that. You're not being self-defeatist. You're adding to their vision based on your lived experience. You see what I'm saying? And then you're open to their lived experience and what they have to share. So building that bridge in between, that's leadership. That's not dictatorship. We deal with the do as I say, not as I do type situation because we were acculturated like that. You see what I'm saying? Like we seen everybody getting high and drinking. You understand what I'm saying? Like we was young. We was young watching it. So, it became a cultural thing in regards to that. Not that particular, but just saying the things that we picked up from when we were young. That we were impressionable, and these are things that we carried on until we learned something different. So the young are the young. So they're the same way we were, and they're going through their process. So they have struggles, they have things. I remember just real quick, my son, during the pandemic, he was 6. He was 6 years old. During the pandemic, I saw him on the front porch of my house, and he was in tears. So I walked outside, and I'm like, yo, what you doing out here? And he wiped his face real quick. So I'm like, initially, I'm like, what you done did? You understand what I'm saying? Initially, I'm like, what you done did? What happened? And when I saw how distraught he was, it was deeper than what you done did. What happened? What's wrong? I got on my knee. I got eye level with him. Like, whatever it is, we'll figure it out. Tell me what's going on. He was like, everybody's getting COVID. I don't want, the family to get COVID. I'm scared something might happen, and I'm just worried about it. I'm stressed out.
Internalized.
6. He's 6 years old. You understand? He's 6 years old saying he's stressed out. He don't want nothing to happen to his family. He got that at 6. If I was 6 and I said that, you know what them grown folks would have said to me. What the hell you know about that?
Mind your damn business.
Right. All of that.
You shouldn't be stressed, boy. He's 6 years old.
No, I shed a tear with my son. I hugged him. I told him I loved him. And I said, we're going to work through this as a family, blah, 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 blah. It was a change in the generations. It was a change in the generation. So recognizing that these younger versions of us get things way younger, just like they got the technology. The technology exists because of them. You see what I'm saying? That kind of mind that they have. So they don't have to take years to get something. They got minutes. You see what I'm saying? They got minutes to get it. So it's like, wow, you get better with each generation, but they don't have the lived experience of how the way of the world works. So this is where we're there to guide them through, to give them those guided, actionable steps in regards to creating their vision.
Right.
So excellent question, beautiful analysis. And what failed is being a child of the revolution. My father was a political prisoner. He died in prison. You see what I'm saying? So I never really got a chance to know him because of his commitment to Black people. You see what I'm saying? So when you look at children of the revolution, oftentimes they are sour by their parents. We herald their parents as great, but they're very estranged to their family because of the commitment and the sacrifice that they made. So that relationship with my father wasn't something I got a chance to cultivate. So that's a greater motivation to cultivate proper relationships with my sons. You see what I'm saying? And with at-risk youth children as a whole. You see what I'm saying? Right. So that was a push and a motivation towards DTK strategic planning and DTK Empower You youth movement. You see what I'm saying? So youth services dealing with young children from the age of 7 to 18, at-risk youth, young Black children, 7 to 18. And then strategic planning is 19 to 35, because just because you turn in age doesn't mean you know what's going on. You age out a lot of these services and you just out here flapping. You see what I'm saying? You could be 35 years old out here flapping, as you see. Like, you 35 years old in America, you could be the president. You talk to a 35-year-old today, most of them think they don't. If they didn't get it, they don't have it. They're just out here trying. They still trying to figure it out.
You could be chronologically 35 years old, but intellectually and emotionally a lot younger than that. I think where the disconnect came in with like sort of like the merger of generations is, and we talk about this on the podcast sometimes too, is our generation, I think leads with a sermon rather than a dialogue. And I think it comes from a place of ego, a place of, well, we lived the experience. Well, we know better. We've experienced it. And by us actually having an information exchange, I think that the ego takes a blow, because it's like, with me having been the person with the lived experience, who are you to tell me? How can you educate me? I've been where you, we say that commonly, I've been where where you at, you ain't been where I'm at or whatever, but you haven't, by saying that, you haven't created an opportunity for there to be an information exchange. You know, where we were when we were 16, 17, 18, you know, we just make the assumption that because they're 16, 17, 18, it's the same experience. There was no internet when we were 16, 17, 18.
Right.
There was no social media. There was a lot of things that didn't exist. So it's a different 16, 17, 18 versus when we were 16, 17, 18. And I think that if we actually were a little bit more open and had that approach of came from the standpoint of a dialogue rather than a sermon, then I think that a lot would get accomplished. And then you would have that sort of cross-generational, for lack of a better word, cross-generational planning, you know, like planning committee or something like that to talk about like, well, all right, what's the black person, black men's agenda, or whatever it is. But it's so driven by hierarchy in terms of age, you know, like, well, you know, I'm the elder spokesperson, and because I'm the elder spokesperson, my word is law, you know, and you've shut down the opportunity to you know, to actually be educated. And some of that I think is, you know, like some of that is just embedded in us, why, you know, like by just what we've learned and our experiences and what we believe. Like we always associate, you know, elder being elderly with being wise, where there's old people that are foolish or young with naive.
Right.
There are young people that are brilliant, you know, like these are just these concepts that we formulated and we live our life based on. But if we don't kind of allow those walls to come down and be open, then we're never going to be able to actually have that cross-generational exchange. And it's always going to be just driven by, you know, it's going to be driven by competition rather than collaboration. Go ahead, Rob. I know you want to say something.
Listening to everyone speak, here we are, you know, one of the things that stood out to me was media. Here we are talking about media, and media being the platform to reach out to either young or old. You know, back in the days, like you said, Shah, we didn't have media. We didn't have this outlet of information to get across to generations or elderly. Like we were told what to do and you did it. We didn't have no base to say, well, you know, you don't know what you're talking. It was none of that. But here we are with children who are grasping technology and information at light speed to go against our old wisdom of seeing things. I think media is the platform to do it. Here we're talking about this exceptional work that Knowledge has put together, and we need more of that. We need less of the exposure of social media that leads to anxiety and these things, and more of an assertion of uplifting and hearing one another out. You know, respectfully, what does the OG have to say and what does the young man have to say? Are they saying the same thing? Or did that OG once say what the 16-year-old is saying? You know, there has to be a balance in that. But I believe media, being media, as the imageries that we see and these perceptions and these symbols that we see, this is the tool we need in order to bridge that gap. We need to use this vehicle as what it is for the purpose of getting through to our younger youth, man, woman, or child, whoever it is. And this is pretty much the platform that we have. I just wanted to say that because we were talking media, and I'm like, well, media is the answer. Media is how we learn dialogue. I did something today on AI. I wrote about, and it was a prompt where if you put, and it allowed me 25,000 characters. So I just went in and put like 8,000 characters in there from my inception, at least my memory of my inception, where I was raised, who raised me, the trials I went through it. And it came back with a 1:40 synopsis of all those words. And it pretty much, I had to give it kudos because I was like, wow, I took all of that, put it together. But what I got back was, oh shit, that's a story worth telling. And now I'm thinking about Yada wanting to write his book. And it may help with these platforms that we have in order to learn them and experience them, to get these stories out, to get these ideas out and share them with those who need to be shared with. So
Yeah.
I think media is our bridge right now. And how we use it digitally, how we use it on our platforms, how we use it musically. I think we all need to have a better way of exposing some positive influence, definitely some educational content. That needs to be more popular again. And not stray away from the entertainment, because we want to lure people in. Back to Knowledge Bond's work, his imagery of what he's showing us lends an eye other than, let me see, who's that? But let me read the words too, because Khalid is there. I want to know if anything that Khalid said is on that page.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about
music
like the
is there also. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The music is there also. So if the music is playing, like you in the zone, you bopping, but you reading at the same time. You see what I'm saying? Like you in your zone, you're like, man, this is something. You see what I'm saying? So it's there. Fred Hampton's picture is there. Fred Hampton is 20 years old right there. He's 20. You see what I'm saying? By the time he was 20, he was shot at, he was locked up, all of these stuff. He wasn't shot at and locked up for being in the street. He was shot at and locked up for feeding little black children in the morning. You see what I'm saying? Like, so this is a mind. This is a mind that was radicalized at the age of 15, 16. He was working with different groups, and he found the Black Panther Party for self-defense, and he went and got into leadership. But not only did he get into leadership, he got into community involvement. You see what I'm saying? He's 20 years old on this picture. You know, a year later, he was assassinated in his house.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So, like this, again, these are models in the hands of the young. You know, in the hands of the young. Like his son, Fred Hampton Jr., was in his mother's womb as she shielded his body from the bullets that's coming through the house. Mama Okua, her pregnant body, she's in her 9th month. You see what I'm saying? Like he was assassinated December 4th. He was born on the 25th. You see what I'm saying? So literally, she about to pop, and this is how you're greeted into the world. This is your orientation into the world. So your inception into the world is 300 bullets through your apartment building, and then every year, the Chicago PD goes and shoots up his headstone.
Yeah.
Every year since his death. The Chicago Police Department goes and shoots up his headstone. So think about how many times they had to replace this headstone. You see what I'm saying? And then the harassment, then the surveillance, how many times he had been locked up, and how many times was he targeted because of who his father was, and he never met his father. So again, these are stories. So if Rob, you got the story, Yada, you got a story, the world needs to hear it. Somebody needs to glean from that story. It can't leave this planet with you. Whatever it is, whatever you do well, your stories, talents, your gifts, your motivation, whatever it is, your thoughts, how you process a day, whatever the case may be, whatever you need to do to share that story with the world. Like I'm compelling you, please, if I could use any kind of my Jedi mind power to influence you to be able to share your story, because once it's out there, it's out there. Another thing to do, just real quick, if you have 10 chapters, you got 10 chapters out there, transmedia storytelling and cross-media storytelling are key. So cross-media storytelling is how many platforms or spaces you can tell your story across. Transmedia storytelling is how many ways can you tell the same story. So imagine this chapter right here, or the Fred Hampton video game, the Fred Hampton comic book, the Fred Hampton podcast, the Fred Hampton board game. All of that sparked from reading a couple pages about Fred Hampton. Now, you got 10 pages or 10 chapters. You breaking down each chapter now. Now you got an episode dedicated to chapter 1 through 10. This is something that you did once, and now these are different variations of how you're utilizing what you already created to be able to do. You see what I'm saying? Now you like, all right, we got 10 chapters. We're going to take a quote from each chapter and make an affirmation. Now we got affirmations. You see what I'm saying? All of these things coming from something that you did one time. So I need to go to the No Ideas original cosplay event where people dress up as their favorite guest that was on No Ideas original. You see what I'm saying? Because people need gathering spaces where they come together. So all right, so who's your team? Who's your team? So show up as your team. You see what I'm saying? You have a team night. You have a team night. Young people coming together. All of these things to where these things are sparking off of something that you already did. You see what I'm saying? Sparking off the way, like for me, it was just me for a long time, and 99% of the time it's still just me. So I got to do my own anniversary shows and get my own guests. I got to put everything together. I ain't got nobody harassing them and putting them in the headlock in the DM. You see what I'm saying, Rob? You know what I'm saying? Like, go to sleep. Right. Wake up on the podcast. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like. I had to be creative in that, and the aspect of education, it expands your mind to be able to say, okay, these are more things that I could do. So just imagine your own flashcards. You see what I'm saying? Your own this, your own that, whatever it is in regards to the aspect of entertainment that Rob was hitting on. He was hitting on it. You see what I'm saying? So these are all means. Operation was a game that we played, right?
Yeah.
We ain't never not see a hospital show on TV. We ain't never not see a cop show on TV, and we ain't never not see a courtroom show on the TV. Ever. You see what I'm saying? So what they telling you? You see what I'm saying? Like, and then they might have slid in some war movies or war TV shows and the Western. You see what I'm saying? That's most of television for the last 100 years.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty much right.
That's a space right there. Then you just add in a couple of things there. So you telling your story, you sharing your story in so many ways for you to share the story across the different media spaces and different ways to tell your story through transmedia storytelling. Like, I don't celebrate Halloween, but I'll be glad if the little kids, it's like, I'm Rob for Halloween. I'll be like, I ain't saying. You understand what I'm saying? Like, he got no ideas original. They got a curation shirt on. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm Shannon for, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like, whatever the case may be, like, I would love that because that was one good takeaway from the Black Panther series. Mad little black children wanted to be Black Panther.
Yeah,
you see what I'm saying? Instead of Jeffrey Dahmer, because folks out here being Jeffrey Dahmer and Freddie and all that shit. They wanted to be what they saw as black royalty. You see what I'm saying? So that was a beautiful thing. So now when we make our own stories and our own action figures, and we acquaint them with their history, they want to be their heroes and their sheroes. But if we acquaint them with our family members, they want to be our family members. Or I want to be Uncle such and such. Or I want to be Auntie such and such. That's the beautiful thing. You see what I'm saying? So putting these personifications and then finding out who they are and who they truly want to be, and then guiding them steps in that way. So back to what Yada was saying about bridging the gap between generations, finding out what their wants, needs, and desires are, and then setting the space to where we're guiding them and leading them to their best self. So what's best for them?
Knowledge, you said that Jeffrey Dahmer. I want to be Jeffrey Dahmer for Halloween. I'm thinking like from a user standpoint, a reader and a consumer, one of the things as I was going through this that I thought about like how information is digested. And I was saying to myself, I'm like, I wonder if knowledge has thought about making this something like where you narrate each volume also. Like has that thought crossed your mind?
Shannon, you're a beautiful brother, man. I'm gonna just tell you that, man. I'm gonna tell you that because
and that's I mean to cut you part ways, but that's a great point to narrate because you get to tell the story through your lens and somebody interpreting this. And I like that because like I said earlier about me putting my story in AI. Hearing someone interpret my words back to me gave me such like, oh shit, did I do that? Like it embellished in me, like wow, bro. Like I haven't heard it said. I can say it to myself, but let me put it in a way where it's given to me as if I didn't know that about myself.
Yeah, and Rob, think of it this way also. Like people digest the medicine differently.
Yeah,
digest the medicine differently. Yes, sir.
And that's why the interviews are important. You see what I'm saying? Like, so literally, that was the goal for Do Now's Radio, 9 years ago, over 3,400 episodes and counting. That worked, that right there. You see what I'm saying? When you come on, you cause to recall. So when people come up here, you like, yo, Nate Sean, da 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 da. You know what I'm saying? Imam Thug, da 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 da. You take people back in their mind. You take people back in their mind. And it's not only about, some of the things they might be known for, some things they never known for. How many times y'all been in an interview and you ask somebody a question, say, yo, son, nobody ever asked me that. Ain't nobody ever asked me that.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah. Like they got to think about it. You understand what I'm saying? So that's the beautiful thing about, creating and carving out the space. So the fact that you asked me that, you were the third person that asked me that question since the books came out.
Nice.
The third person. You see what I'm saying? Well, the first person required it. Say, yo, fam, I need you to. You see what I'm saying? And my godfather, my Baba, he's like, yo, did you ever think about? And that was just earlier today. So I get on here on the interview and bam, here go the third time's the charm. You see what I'm saying? Where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I'll be in the midst. You see what I'm saying? So I guess that's going to have to be something that's done, for a version of this like that. So yes, that's definitely something that I got mandated to do and then presented with it twice. You see what I'm saying? So
knowledge. This is your 9th year of actually producing content. You got the distinction of producing content pre-pandemic. Our podcast, the inception of it, came around during the pandemic, and we're just fortunate enough to have stuck with it post-pandemic. For a lot of people during the pandemic, it was a hobby. A lot of podcasts have come and gone, but yours continues to grow. And, I see that you're adding different components, and I remember before talking, you was like, I'm working alone, but now I see you have co-hosts and you created a network essentially where you have like different shows and everything. What keeps you motivated after 9 years?
I mean, good things take time. Good things take time. I don't exist for myself. I'm a representation of my mother and my father, my grandmother and my grandfather, and those family members that came before me, and then the larger Black community as a whole. That's motivation. You see what I'm saying? So actually, sitting with people, linking with y'all. You see what I'm saying? Linking with different people along the way. Now, I'll be lying if I didn't tell you that there was a time where this felt like work and it was burnout and I was spinning my wheels. And I took 8 months. I didn't do nothing. Right? So I'm like, ain't nobody care, no way, blah, blah, blah. Right? I went through that a little bit. And I was working with the son of the brother that y'all showed in the volume, Steve Coakley Sr. Peace and blessings be upon him. I was working with Steve Coakley Jr. So a chance to work with Steve Coakley, the son of Steve Coakley, his son Steve Coakley, who looked just like him, who talked just like him, but he's his own person. You see what I'm saying? And he's like, yo, I'm doing these things in Ghana, blah, 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 blah. They told me to holler. All right, look, let's go. Okay. So I'm out working with him, getting them different interviews and things like that. And we were on an interview platform called Straight Black Talk at the time. They're now Thorough Black Talk. Shout out to my sister Keisha, Shay, Uncle Tad, and everybody over there at Thorough Black Talk. And I had him over there, and a caller called in. We was on Blog Talk, so people call in. Caller, what you got to say? They like, oh, Steve Coakley, we love your father, we love you, we love the work you're doing. Yo, Knowledge, fam, what happened to Do Knowledge Radio? What?
You never know who's watching.
You understand? Like what? Like literally hit me like, wow. I was like, oh, all right. So I went back and sat with my elder, and he was like, yo, it's time. Nice. It's time. So being obedient, I came back. You see what I'm saying? I came back full blast. I came back on the audio, and I came back on YouTube. So I was on YouTube, and YouTube, y'all know it ain't a good place sometimes. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, all right. But we went out there and did did what we need to do, and always creating opportunities. So the opportunities that's given, I have an audacious goal now to righteously document and tell 1 million Black stories.
Nice.
If the math says loosely 4,400,000,000 Black people all over the planet Earth, 1 million is a drop in the bucket, and I already got 3,400 in to the good. You understand what I'm saying? Now looking at it and seeing what's growing and coming forward again, these are also things that keep me motivated, to keep me inspired, to keep me pushing. And now we're putting together DTK Multimedia Production Company, where we're telling movies and stories and documentaries and books and so many things that are in the works now. To go from a determined idea in your mind, to see it in your reality and begin to change reality through what we're sharing with the world. You see what I'm saying? If that ain't motivation, I don't know what to tell you. You see what I'm saying?
To be able to do it with integrity, brother. You've done it with integrity, without sensationalism, without, like you said, like we know how YouTube is. YouTube could be really, really dirty and smear campaigns and everything, but you've kept it above ground and, putting out amazing content, not going after the low hang. Like we pride ourselves also on not going after the low hanging fruit, but, I watch your stuff and I'm like, yeah, knowledge is focused, knowledge is focused. And I appreciate what you said earlier too about like, anything worthwhile building it takes time, and everybody ain't fit for that. Not everybody want to put in the work. Some people want immediate results. Some people want to go to the gym and then come out the next day looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger. They're not in it for the long haul. But if you're in it for the long haul, when you do get to wherever it is that you want to go, knowledge, I'm telling you, you'll look back at the process and you'll appreciate the process to see you go from, nothing to something. That in between is the sweet spot that I think a lot of people miss out on because they're only thinking about what they deem to be the spoils as a result of the work that they put in.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
So if you looked at episode 1 for me was What is Consciousness? That was August 29, 2015.
Wow.
My little sister's birthday, Michael Jackson's birthday, Black August commemoration. I'm like, that's the day we're going to do Knowledge Radio. So there, I have a physical component in honor of her, my younger sister, not my youngest sister, my younger sister, Michael Jackson, Black August. What other motivation do I need to get started? So now I'm starting with the research question, what is consciousness? So Red Pill, Black Dot, everybody that had good relationships with, they come through on the first episode. They come through like truckload of folks come through. I'm like, man, all right. So I'm calling people, inviting people like, yo, this, whatever, and they coming through. Everybody's coming through. So the first part of the show was designed for what I've seen physically. We're going to events and things like that before the actual speaker or whatever the thing was. They used to let people come up and say what they did. You see what I'm saying? So if you cut hair, if you did hair, if whatever the product or service that you offered, they gave you that shot. Hey, go shoot your shot to the crowd. You understand what I'm saying? And there were people who got work once these images were there and created, and they were circulating around the world, via the conscious community. People were able to get work and feed their families based off of that moment right there. They weren't the lecturer, they weren't the talent, but they were the people. So I was like, all right, I'm going to split this up into segments. The first segment, you could call in and promote your brand, promote your service, your product, your organization, whatever the case may be. So you call in, and that was the first half. And then the second half was dedicated to whatever the research question the guest was. And we talked about what is consciousness. So the people loved that dynamic because it gave them a chance to be involved. After a while, people just started calling in to tune in for the guests, but I always wanted that component, and I continue to keep that component. You see what I'm saying? So now you hear folks, they like, oh, shameless plug. F that. Like, yo, you got a product, service to promote. So you get people involved in the process. You see what I'm saying? So not only are they calling in to hear who you got, but they're calling in to be like, yo, I do roofing. Oh, where you at? Oh, I'm in San Diego. Oh, I'm a plumber over here. Oh, I do general contract work. Oh, blah blah. So the word gets to spread that way. They would say, "Oh, yo, somebody said they did general contracting on your show," and blah blah blah. So that's what it was. So not just the guests that came in; it was the people in the audience. So the audience became guests, and then the guests became co-hosts in instances. There were some guests that came on and they started to do their own show. So this turned into a whole network. Based off of a determined idea to celebrate those unsung, to give a voice to the voiceless. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So that was the determined idea and push. So August 29th, 9 years, it's the born anniversary. It's happening. The merchandise, I don't know if you could share. If I could share my screen real quick, I'll just show it real quick.
And you can get the merch from artifactsclothing.com. 9-year commemorative anniversary, born anniversary T-shirt.
Right. Bring that up. We gotta get the mathematics. You know what I'm saying? Gotta get the mathematics up in there. Slide it in there real quick. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah. So the 9th year limited edition it's 100 shirts. My brother Mental Son and his queen, Mental out there in Arkansas, they're creating the shirts. You know, they got a bunch of great stuff over there, artifacts. You see them, so these are the art. They're using the art and the facts and putting them together to have this beautiful clothing line to where you're wearing things and adorning yourself with people and things that you support throughout your history. Again, they're conversation starters. So 100 shirts, limited edition for the month of August in commemoration and celebration with our 9-year anniversary, 3,400 episodes and count. You see what I'm saying? So you see the letters over the speakers. You understand what I'm saying? So we getting it out there. We still doing it what we got to do and empowering in the way that we supposed to. I just think it was just so brilliant and genius of him to want to collaborate. Because I just wanted one shirt. You see what I'm saying? You know, on my anniversary, I had my shirt on. Like, yeah, son. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got these. Like, right? And I just sat with him and was like, we could come up with an idea to be able to work together to collaborate and make this happen. So, once these 100 shirts are gone, these are collector's items. These aren't just things for you to adorn. This is a piece of art. This is artwork. We have to continue to place value with our own art and our own artistry. So
you get that at artifactsclothing.com. Now, if the people want to get in contact with you, I have your IG on the screen, but where else can they get in contact with you? Plug your YouTube channel also, brother.
Student Knowledge Radio on YouTube. The way it's spelled right here. You put DOTHE. I don't know what you're gonna get, but you're not gonna get me. You see what I'm saying? So it's DOTHA. You see what I'm saying? That A is for African. That A is for Allah. You see what I'm saying? That E that you might have done. You might have to be dealing with something else. You see what I'm saying? So DOTHA KNOWLEDGERADIO, and come through, share your story. You know what I'm saying? Come share your story. Come to No Ideas Original. Like this is one of the premier places for the unsung and the unknown stories to be told and seen and heard everywhere. No Ideas Original podcast is a space of collaboration. It's a familyhood. It's a brotherhood. It's so many essential things that are missing in the society. Everybody trying to fake, trying to floss and pretend and get over and manipulate. In a space where that's prevalent, these brothers are very evident that those things don't always translate into real life. The collaborations, the relationship equity, the brotherhood over the years, the familyhood over the years. This is a prime example of a place where you can take a determined idea and see it come to fruition and win with the people you love. You know what I'm saying? So definitely Shout out to each one of y'all. And No Ideas Original. And Do Knowledge Radio is an afterthought for this space. You see what I'm saying? It's just a continuation of this space right here. So from No Ideas Original to Do the Knowledge. You see what I'm saying? Because after you get that idea, you gotta do the knowledge. You see what I'm saying?
Do the knowledge is the inspiration for this space. If we could be fortunate enough to continue to keep going and stay motivated for 9 years, that's a wonderful thing. Appreciate you, Knowledge. Always a great conversation when you pull up. IG is on the screen. Make sure you go to Do the Knowledge on YouTube. Thanks again, brother.
Do the knowledge.
Appreciate it.